breaking news out of the Fed. For that, we'll turn to Ylan Mui. Ylan?
Carl, the Federal Reserve reporting that it will conduct overnight repo operations through at least 2020. The Fed also saying that it will purchase T-bills into the second quarter of next year. Now, we know that Fed officials had discussed at their September meeting the need for a plan to address the volatility in these overnight funding markets. Chairman Powell had said that a plan would be coming soon. Now we have it. The Fed overnight repo operations will be conducted at least through 2020. Again, T-bills will be purchased through the second quarter of next year. The Fed also pointing out that this is not the same as QE and that these actions will not affect the stance of monetary policy. Back over to you.
All right, Ylan, thank you very much. We'll look for any market reaction on those immediate headlines. As we said earlier, Dow now up 408. I think we're going to go to Steve Liesman and talk about what this may mean. Steve, you've sort of raised the question earlier in the week about what additional purchases would mean.
Yeah, so the Fed has this issue of this continued illiquidity in the markets. It had previously said it was going to conduct these operations through November 4th. This extends it out, and they could extend it out again. There's two things going on. They're going to purchase Treasury bills. That's going to be a permanent addition to the balance sheet. And then they're going to conduct these repos. Those are temporary operations. And as we talked about earlier this week, they have to turn the temporary stuff into permanent stuff. They're going to be growing their balance sheet again. As I said, they said they were going to do it through November 4th. Everybody was expecting an announcement of a sort of extension on this. What happened is they held a meeting by video conference. The FOMC did last week, and they're announcing it this week. Unclear why they're doing it at this time and sort of in this manner, but they are announcing this, and they're trying to tell us, as they have been for a while now, that this is not quantitative easing. The amounts, Carl, they're less than they were before, and they're not designed at lowering long-term rates. These are purchases on the short end of the curve, Carl.
Steve, just to hone in on what you said, this idea of temporary to permanent, the extension into 2020 for these operations, is that a realistic timeline, or do you think it continues to extend out from there?
So it's unclear how they're going to handle all this. So there's two things. The operations themselves are temporary, but the temporary operations they're making are also temporary in the sense that they're doing these as overnight. So they go purchase them overnight. Sometimes do it for 2 weeks, but they expire. What the Fed needs to do what Powell told us needed to be done, which was to get the balance sheet back to the sort of early September time period, is to make purchases to its for its balance sheet to bring it up permanently, not these overnight repo operations where they expire and go off balance sheet the next day. So they need to make it permanent, which means they need to make purchases. And this seems to me among the first times that they're sort of announcing that there's a beginning of a permanent operation. What I did not have time to do, and know that all the real Fed wonks, the people who are really looking at the inner plumbing, want to know how much is all of this going to be. Is it going to keep going the way it was? Is there some acceleration? What's the timing of all this? And the market's going to care. The guy who's at Trade Fixed Income will care very deeply about the pacing of this and the amounts, Morgan.
I'm seeing some characterizations here, Steve, that they're pulling no punches. Is that how you see it?
They're being pretty forceful here. I'm not sure the market expected this today. I forget, was it Tuesday we got the comments from Jay Powell, who told us this had been already decided? And the question I had was, well, when did you decide this? Well, now we know today they decided it last Friday. They had what appears to be some sort of special meeting. Not clear why it's sort of being handled on an emergency sort of level. I don't know this is exactly like they did business during the crisis, but they did have a special meeting. They are making a special announcement today. I assume they felt like it could not be handled in the regular meeting coming up in 2 weeks. So I'm a little surprised how they did this. But, yes, they're moving with alacrity, I guess is the way to put it, and moving relatively forcefully.